I should have known something was wrong when Derek showed up on a Tuesday. My son doesn't do Tuesdays. Tuesdays are for conference calls and property walkthroughs and lunch meetings with people who wear watches that cost more than my truck. But there he was, standing in my driveway at 9 in the morning, holding a leather portfolio like it contained the deed to heaven itself. "Dad." He smiled, that professional smile he'd been practicing since business school. "Got a minute?" I was replacing the carburetor on my neighbor's lawnmower. My hands were black with grease, and I could smell two-stroke fuel on my shirt. Derek stood 3 feet back, like the smell might transfer. "Sure." I wiped my hands on a rag that made them dirtier. "What's up? Can we go inside? This won't take long." Patricia was at the kitchen table with her coffee and the newspaper. Real newspaper, the kind that leaves ink on your fingers. She looked up when we came in, and I watched her eyes do that thing they'd been doing lately when Derek visited, that quick assessment, that little tightening around the edges. "Morning, Patricia." Derek set the portfolio on the table. Didn't ask if he could, just set it down right on top of her crossword puzzle. "Derek." She moved her coffee mug, didn't smile back. "Dad, I need you to sign something." He opened the portfolio and pulled out a stack of papers, legal size, maybe 20 pages. The top sheet had my name on it. "Just a formality, really. Cleaning up some old paperwork from when you helped me get started." I sat down. Patricia didn't move. "What kind of paperwork?" I asked. "Remember when you co-signed on the Riverside property, back in 18? He was already flipping to the signature pages, yellow tabs marking each spot. "This just transfers everything into a cleaner corporate structure, more efficient for taxes. My accountant's been on me about it for months." I picked up the first page, started reading. "Dad, seriously, it's just standard stuff." Derek pulled out a pen, Mont Blanc, the kind with the white star on top. "I've got a meeting at 10. "Then you should have come earlier," Patricia said. He looked at her. She looked back. Something passed between them that I'd seen before, but never quite understood. Some kind of invisible line being drawn. I kept reading. The language was dense, legal terms stacked on top of each other like a house of cards. Grantor and grantee, whereas and hereto, in consideration of and notwithstanding. But I'd been reading contracts since before Derek was born. My job for 30 years had been making sure commercial properties ran smoothly, which meant understanding every lease, every service agreement, every maintenance clause that landlords tried to sneak past tenants. I knew what I was looking at. "This isn't just about Riverside," I said. "It covers all our joint interests." Derek tapped the signature page. "Simpler to bundle everything together. One document instead of 5. All our joint interests." I flipped back to page 3. "Including the Denver project." "Right. And the warehouse conversion in Oakland." "Correct. And the commercial strip on Halstead." "Dad," Derek's smile was getting thinner. "Do you want me to leave this and come back? Because I really don't have time to explain every single line item." Patricia stood up, walked to the sink, started washing a coffee cup that was already clean. I kept reading. Page 7 was interesting. Page 12 was more interesting. Page 16 made me set the papers down and look at my son. "You wrote this yourself," I said. "Or your accountant did." "It's a standard corporate restructuring." "Standard?" I almost laughed. "Derek, this document transfers operational control to whoever holds the primary management interest in the parent LLC." "Right. Me." "It does that," I said. "If I sign where you've marked. If I sign without reading the sections you didn't mark." His smile disappeared. "But if I sign where I want to sign," I continued. "If I initial the clauses you've left blank, if I fill in the sections marked optional grantor designation, then something very different happens." Patricia had stopped washing the cup. The water was still running. Derek's face had gone very still. Dad, I don't think you understand the legal implications of— I understand them fine. I picked up his expensive pen. I also understand that you copied this structure from something I did in 1994, the Fletcher deal. You must have found the paperwork in my old files. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. I started initialing. Section 7, Section 12, Section 16. You found my Fletcher documents and you thought, this is clever. This is how you trap someone in a contract they think they're escaping. You thought I wouldn't recognize my own work. Dad, you thought I was too old to remember, too tired to care. I signed the final page, right where he'd marked it. You thought showing up on a Tuesday morning with your meeting excuse would make me rush. I slid the papers back across the table. There, all signed, just like you wanted. Derek picked up the portfolio slowly. He was looking at the papers like they might catch fire. You should read what you have people sign, I said, before you celebrate. What did you do? I signed it. Just a formality, right? You've got a meeting at 10. He stood there another 30 seconds, trying to find the angle, trying to understand what had just happened. Then he grabbed the portfolio and walked out without saying goodbye. Patricia turned off the water. You saw it, she said. I saw it. Are you sure about this? I thought about that question. Thought about every Sunday dinner where Derek showed up 40 minutes late. Every Christmas where he checked his phone more than he talked to us. Every time he'd introduced me to his business partners as my father who used to work in property management, with that little emphasis on used to that made it sound like I'd retired from being a janitor. I thought about his wife, Ashley, who'd once asked me at Thanksgiving if I needed help reading the menu. In front of everyone. I thought about the way Derek had looked at me just now, with that mixture of impatience and pity, like I was a dog that needed to be moved out of the way. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. Patricia nodded, poured herself more coffee. Neither of us said anything else. The carburetor could wait. I sat there at the kitchen table, looking at the space where the portfolio had been, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not anger, exactly. Anger was hot. Anger was impulsive. This was cold. This was patient. This was 25 years of watching my son turn into someone I didn't quite like, crystallized into one Tuesday morning. Outside, Derek's Mercedes started up. He revved it once before backing out, the way he always did, making sure the neighbors heard. How long? Patricia asked. Before he figures it out? Yeah. 3 days, I said. Maybe 4. He'll take it to his lawyer first. The lawyer will read it twice before calling him. What happens then? I picked up my coffee. It had gone cold while I was reading. I drank it anyway. Then, I said, he'll realize that every property he thinks he owns, he actually manages. And every property he thinks I co-own with him, I actually control. He'll realize that the primary management interest clause he was so proud of gives me operational authority over every business decision for the next 18 months. He'll realize that he can't sell, refinance, or restructure anything without my written approval. And he'll realize that he handed me all of that while rushing to a meeting that probably wasn't even real. And you're going to use it. It wasn't a question. Yeah, I said. I'm going to use it. Patricia reached across the table and squeezed my hand once. Then she went back to her crossword puzzle, filling in squares with that careful handwriting she'd always had. I sat there another few minutes, thinking about Tuesdays, and about sons who underestimate their fathers, and about how the thing you don't see coming is always the thing that hits hardest. Then I went back outside to finish the carburetor, but I couldn't focus. My hands kept slipping. I kept thinking about the look on Derek's face when he'd picked up that portfolio. That confusion, that little flicker of something that might have been doubt. Good. He should doubt. 3 days, I'd told Patricia. But I was betting on 2. Derek was impatient. He'd take the papers straight to his lawyer and demand an explanation today. The lawyer would call him back tonight, maybe tomorrow morning, and then the phone would ring. I almost smiled, standing there in my driveway with grease under my nails and fuel on my shirt. Almost, but not quite, because this wasn't about winning, not yet. This was about making sure he understood exactly what he'd lost before I took it away. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? The phone rang Thursday morning. I was in the garage, organizing my socket set, when I heard Patricia answer in the kitchen. Her voice went flat after 3 words. That tone she used when she was being polite to someone she'd rather hang up on. "He's here," she called. "It's Derek." I took my time washing my hands, used the pumice soap, got every trace of grease out from under my nails, dried them carefully on a clean towel. Patricia was still holding the phone when I came in, holding it away from her ear like it might bite. "Dad." Derek's voice was tight. "We need to talk." "I'm listening." "Not on the phone. I'm coming over." "I'll be here." He hung up without saying goodbye. Patricia set the phone down and raised her eyebrows. 2 days, she said. "Lawyer must have worked late. You want me to stay?" I thought about that. "Might be better if you didn't." She kissed my cheek and grabbed her purse. "I'll be at Susan's. Call if you need me." "I won't need you." "Call anyway." She was gone before Derek's Mercedes turned onto our street. I watched from the living room window as he parked, as he sat in the driver's seat for a full minute before getting out. He wasn't carrying the portfolio this time. His hands were empty, clenched into fists at his sides. I opened the door before he could knock. "Come in." He didn't say hello, just walked past me into the living room and stood there like he was trying to remember how to breathe. "You knew," he said. "Knew what?" "Don't." His voice cracked. "Don't play dumb. You knew exactly what that document said." I sat down in my chair, the one I'd been sitting in for 15 years, with the worn armrests and the spring that squeaked when you leaned back. Derek stayed standing. "I read what you gave me," I said. "I signed it." "You changed it." "I filled in the optional sections. That's not changing it. That's completing it." "You know what I mean." He was pacing now, 3 steps one way, 3 steps back. "You know what I was trying to do." "Yeah, I know exactly what you were trying to do." That stopped him. He turned and looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. "Then why did you sign it?" "Because you asked me to. Because you said it was just a formality. Because you were in a hurry." I leaned back. The spring squeaked. "And because I wanted to see how long it would take you to figure out what you'd done." "What I'd done?" He laughed, sharp and bitter. "What you did, you mean. You sabotaged your own son." "I signed the document you brought me. Every initial, every signature, right where it needed to be. Nothing sabotaged, nothing illegal. You know this isn't what I intended." "Then you should have read it more carefully before you asked me to sign." He started pacing again. I could see him thinking, trying to find the angle. Derek was good at finding angles. That's what made him successful in real estate. You find the gap between what people want and what they think they want, and you slip through it. "Okay," he said finally. "Okay, this is fixable. We write up an amendment. We clarify the intent. No." "What do you mean, no?" "I mean no amendments, no clarifications, no fixes. You wanted this document signed. It's signed. It's filed. It's done." His face went red. "You can't do this." "I'm not doing anything. You gave me operational control. I'm operating." "I'll sue." "On what grounds? That you didn't read your own contract? That you rushed your father into signing something you didn't understand?" "Good luck with that." He was breathing hard now. I could see the vein in his temple pulsing, the one that always showed up when he was losing an argument. Why? His voice was quieter now. Dangerous. Just tell me why. You really don't know? If I knew, I wouldn't be asking. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, Mrs. Henderson was walking her dog. Same route, same time, every day for 12 years, consistency, routine, things you could count on. 2 years ago, I said, you invited us to your office Christmas party. You remember that? What does that have to do with? You introduced me to your partners. This is my dad. He used to manage buildings. I turned to face him. Used to. Like it was something I'd retired from in shame. Like I'd spent 30 years mopping floors instead of negotiating million-dollar leases. Dad, I didn't mean... Last Thanksgiving, Ashley asked if I needed help reading the menu, in front of your in-laws, in front of everyone. You laughed. She was joking. Was she? Because you didn't tell her to stop. You didn't say, my father's been reading contracts since before you were born. You just laughed. Derek's jaw tightened. Every Sunday dinner you're late, I continued. Every Christmas you're on your phone. Every time we see you, you treat us like an obligation. Like something you have to check off your list so you can get back to your real life. That's not fair. Fair. I almost laughed. You want to talk about fair? You copied a contract structure from my old files. You thought I wouldn't recognize it. You thought I was too old or too stupid or too trusting to see what you were doing. You thought you could trick your own father into signing away what little we built together. I was protecting my assets. From me? From your own father? From anyone who might... He stopped. Looked away. Who might what, Derek? Who might want a share of what you built? Except we built it together. Every property you think is yours started with my money, my connections, my reputation. I paid you back. In equity I wasn't allowed to touch. In partnerships where I had no vote. In deals where my name was on the paperwork, but your signature was the only one that mattered. I sat back down. You've been cutting me out piece by piece for 5 years. This document was just the final step. Make it legal. Make it clean. Make the old man sign his life away so you can stop pretending to care. Derek was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, colder. So what now? You're going to destroy everything I've built? Because I hurt your feelings? No, I'm going to use the authority you gave me, the same way you would have used it if the situation were reversed. That's insane. That's business. This is family. Yeah. I looked at him. It is. You might want to remember that. He stared at me. I stared back. All the years between us, all the missed dinners and forgotten birthdays and casual disrespect, sitting right there in the space between the couch and my chair. I need those properties, he said finally. I have deals in motion, commitments. If you block me, I'm not blocking you. I'm managing. That's what the document says, right? Primary management interest? Well, I'm interested in managing. You don't know anything about my current deals. Then you'd better bring me up to speed. He laughed again, that bitter sound. You want reports? You want to play executive? I want to understand what I'm now responsible for. Seems reasonable. This is insane, he said again. But he was already calculating. I could see it in his eyes, trying to figure out which deals he could risk, which ones he needed my approval for, which ones he could hide until he found a way around this. I'll need access to all current contracts by Monday, I said. All pending deals. All financial statements for the last 18 months, full accounting. That's confidential. Not from the primary management interest holder, it's not. His hands clenched again. You're enjoying this. No, I'm doing what needs to be done. Because I was late to dinner? Because Ashley made a stupid joke? This is what you're destroying my business over? I'm not destroying anything. I'm taking an interest, like you asked me to when you brought me that document. He turned and walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the knob. You know what the worst part is? His voice was quiet now, almost sad. I thought you'd be proud of me. Everything I've built, everything I've accomplished, I thought that's what you wanted. I wanted a son, I said, not a balance sheet. He left without closing the door. I sat there in my chair, listening to his Mercedes start up and drive away. No revving this time, no announcement, just the quiet sound of an engine fading into the distance. Patricia came home an hour later. She didn't ask what happened, just looked at the open door, at me sitting in the chair, and nodded. You okay? She asked. Yeah. You sure? I thought about Derek's face, the anger, the confusion, the hurt underneath it all that he was trying to hide. Yeah, I said again. I'm sure. She closed the door and went to start dinner. I stayed in the chair, watching the afternoon light move across the living room floor, and I thought about fathers and sons and the distance between what we build and what we lose. The phone didn't ring again that night, but I knew it would. Soon. Because Derek didn't give up. That's not what I'd taught him. Monday morning, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line, just an attachment, a PDF labeled Current Holdings Summary. I opened it on Patricia's laptop. She stood behind me, reading over my shoulder. That's a lot of numbers, she said. Yeah. The spreadsheet ran 60 pages. Properties listed by acquisition date, current value, outstanding debt, projected returns. The Riverside complex I'd co-signed for was there, listed at $3 million current value with a $2 million mortgage. The Denver project showed 5 units pre-sold, 3 under contract, 2 still available. The Oakland warehouse conversion was behind schedule and over budget. The commercial strip on Halstead was hemorrhaging money. He's leveraged, Patricia said quietly. Very. How bad? I scrolled down. Debt-to-equity ratios, cash flow projections, interest payments. Bad enough that he needs everything to close on time. If one deal falls through, they all fall through. Not all of them, but enough. I printed the whole document, took it to the kitchen table and started making notes. Patricia brought me coffee and went to do the crossword in the living room. She knew when I needed quiet. By noon, I understood Derek's situation completely. He was good. I had to give him that. He'd built a real business, not just a house of cards, solid properties, decent returns, smart acquisitions, but he'd gotten ambitious. Too many projects at once, too much borrowed money, too much faith that everything would close when he needed it to. And now I could stop any of it with a phone call. My cell rang at 1 o'clock. Did you get the file? Derek's voice was neutral, professional, like we were colleagues, not family. I got it. Questions? Several. I can walk you through it. That would be helpful. Silence on the other end. He'd expected a fight. Expected me to throw his numbers back at him, maybe. Tell him how screwed he was. But I wasn't going to give him that. Tomorrow, he said finally. My office. 10 a.m. I'll be there. He hung up. Patricia came into the kitchen. Well, he's being smart, treating this like a real partnership. Is it? No, but he's playing it right. Keep me close, keep me informed, make it seem like we're working together, then find a way around me when I'm not looking. Will you let him? I thought about that. Thought about the numbers I'd been reading, the deals that were close to closing, the money that would flow if everything went according to plan. I don't know yet, I said. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the Halstead property, the commercial strip that was losing money every month. I'd driven past it a few times over the years. Prime location, good foot traffic, but half the units were empty. Wrong property at the wrong time. He'd never mentioned it was bleeding cash. At 3 a.m, I got up and went to the kitchen, made myself tea, sat at the table with the printed spreadsheet and highlighted every problem I could find. There were a lot of problems. Patricia found me there at 6, still making notes. You're going to make yourself sick, she said. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're running on revenge and insomnia. I'm running on clarity. She sat down across from me. What are you trying to prove? I'm not trying to prove anything. Yes, you are. You're trying to prove that you're not what he thinks you are. That you're not old, not obsolete, not someone who can be pushed aside. I set down my pen. Maybe, I said. And what happens when you prove it? What happens when he realizes you were right and he was wrong? What then? Then he learns a lesson. Or he never speaks to us again. That stopped me. I looked at Patricia, at the concern in her eyes, and I realized she'd been thinking about this longer than I had. Thinking about consequences. About after. You think I should stop, I said. I think you should know what you want out of this, because right now, you're angry. And anger makes you sharp, but anger also makes you blind. I'm not blind. Then tell me what you want. Do you want Derek to fail? Do you want him to apologize? Do you want him to understand what he did wrong? I stopped. I want him to see me. He sees you. No, he sees what he thinks I am, old, tired, past my prime. I want him to see what I actually am, which is someone who taught him everything he knows, someone who still remembers what he's apparently forgotten. Patricia reached across the table and took my hand. Then show him that, she said, but don't destroy him to do it. I didn't say anything, didn't promise, because I honestly didn't know if I could show Derek who I was without taking apart who he'd become. Tuesday morning, I drove to Derek's office. Downtown high-rise 18th floor, glass walls and modern furniture. His assistant was new, a young guy in an expensive suit who looked at me like I was lost. I'm here to see Derek, I said. Do you have an appointment? 10 o'clock. He checked his computer. Name? Tell him his father's here. The kid's expression changed. Oh, yes, right this way. Derek's office was corner suite, windows on 2 walls, view of the city spreading out like a promise. He was on the phone when I walked in, but he gestured for me to sit. I understand, but that's not going to work for us, he was saying. We need the permits approved by the 15th or the whole timeline shifts. Talk to Miller. He owes me a favor. He hung up and looked at me. Thanks for coming. You made it sound important. It is. He opened a laptop and turned it toward me. I want to walk you through each current project. Show you where we are, where we need to be, and how we get there. Okay. For the next 2 hours, Derek explained his business to me. Every property, every deal, every timeline and projection and contingency plan. He was thorough, patient, treating me like a real partner, someone whose opinion mattered. It was the most he'd talked to me in 5 years. The Oakland conversion is the tightest, he said. We're 30 days behind schedule. Every day costs us $3,000 in extended financing. What's the holdup? Permits, always permits. Who's handling that? Ashley's cousin. He's a project manager. I wrote that down. Is he any good? Derek hesitated. He's family. That's not what I asked. He's learning. So no, he's cheap. Cheap project managers are expensive in the long run. Derek looked at me. Something shifted in his expression. You want me to fire him? I want you to decide if saving a few thousand in management fees is worth losing $400,000 in profit. He closed the laptop. That's the kind of decision you used to help me with, he said quietly. Before. Before what? Before I stopped asking. Before I thought I knew better. It was as close to an apology as I was going to get. Not for the document, not for the disrespect, but for the distance, for the assumption that he'd outgrown needing me. You want my advice? I asked. Yes. Fire him today. Hire someone who knows what they're doing. Eat the cost. Save the deal. Ashley won't like it. Then Ashley needs to understand that family loyalty doesn't trump business sense. Derek nodded slowly. Anything else? The Halstead property, the commercial strip. His expression went carefully blank. What about it? 6,000 a month in losses. How long have you been covering that? 18 months. It'll turn around. No, it won't. You know it won't. The market's changed. You need to cut your losses. I can't sell it now. I'd lose everything. You're losing everything keeping it. Sell it. Take the hit. Move on. My investors will think I failed. Your investors will think you're smart enough to recognize a bad bet. He stood up and walked to the window, looked out at the city. That property was supposed to be my proof, he said. Proof I could turn around a failing asset, that I wasn't just flipping properties, I was building something lasting. Sometimes the smartest thing you can build is an exit strategy. He laughed, bitter. You sound like you. I am me. I mean the you from before, the one who used to tell me this stuff over breakfast, when I'd actually listen. You're listening now, because you've got a gun to my head. I've got nothing to your head. I've got a signature on a document you brought me. He turned around. You really don't see this as revenge? I see it as correction. Correction. You were heading in the wrong direction, burning money on bad projects, hiring family instead of talent, treating this business like it was all momentum and no friction. Someone needed to correct your course. And that someone had to be you. You made it me, when you brought me that document. So this is my fault. This is your opportunity, to prove you're as smart as you think you are, to show me whether you can take advice, or whether you're too proud to learn from someone who's done this longer than you've been alive. Derek sat back down. We looked at each other across his expensive desk, in his corner office, in the business he'd built with my help and my money and my name on the paperwork he thought would cut me out. If I do what you're suggesting, he said slowly, if I fire Ashley's cousin and sell Halstead, what then? Then you save yourself about $15,000 a month, which gives you breathing room on the Oakland deal, which means if the permits run late, you don't lose your shirt. And you'll approve all this? If it makes business sense. Just like that. Just like that. He studied me. You're not going to destroy me. I was never going to destroy you. Then what are you doing? Teaching you something you apparently forgot. That smart men listen to good advice no matter where it comes from, even if it comes from someone you think is old and useless. His jaw tightened. I never said that. You didn't have to. We sat there in silence. Outside, the city hummed along, deals closing, projects breaking ground, money changing hands, all of it indifferent to fathers and sons and the complicated math of pride and respect. I'll think about it, Derek said finally. Don't think too long. Every day costs you money. I stood up to leave. Dad. I stopped. Thanks for coming. Inside, the room was full of people whose names I vaguely recognized from newspaper articles and business journals. Derek introduced us to a few. Made sure to mention I was his business partner now, not just his father. Made sure everyone knew I was here in a professional capacity. It was performative, but it was the right kind of performative. Ashley arrived an hour later. She came with a date, some guy in his 40s with perfect teeth and a watch that caught the light every time he moved his wrist. He looked like he'd been grown in a lab specifically to make Derek feel inadequate. They worked the room separately at first. Ashley on one side, Derek on the other. But the room was only so big. Eventually, they'd have to cross paths. It happened near the bar. Ashley was talking to a couple I didn't recognize. Derek was ordering a drink. They saw each other at the same time. Derek, Ashley smiled. That professional smile. Good to see you. Ashley. You remember Grant, don't you? He's with Morrison Development. Grant extended his hand. Derek shook it. I watched from 10 feet away, trying to decide if I needed to intervene. I was sorry to hear about your separation, Grant said. Must be difficult. We're managing, Derek replied. I'm sure. Ashley's told me so much about your business. Sounds like you've had some challenges lately. Nothing we couldn't handle. That's not what I heard. Didn't you have to sell that commercial property at a significant loss? Derek's jaw tightened. Market conditions change. Smart investors adapt. Of course. Though I also heard you brought your father in as a partner. That must be interesting. I started walking over. So did Patricia. But Derek saw us and shook his head slightly. He had this. My father's one of the smartest men I know, Derek said. Bringing him in was the best decision I've made in years. Ashley's smile faltered. Really? Grant said. Because Ashley mentioned he was more of a consultant, helping with basic operations. Ashley's information is outdated. My father is a full partner with operational authority, which he uses to keep me from making the kind of stupid mistakes I used to make when I listened to the wrong people. The air changed. Ashley's face went very still. The wrong people, she repeated. Yeah, people who were more interested in appearances than substance. People who measured success in status instead of stability. Derek. People who convinced me that family was a liability instead of an asset. That the people who actually cared about me were embarrassments to be managed instead of partners to be valued. Grant cleared his throat. Maybe we should. I'm filing for divorce, Derek said to Ashley. Monday morning. I wanted to tell you before you heard it from my lawyer. Ashley's perfect composure cracked. You can't do that. I can. I am. After everything I did for you. Everything you did for yourself, you mean. Every decision, every connection, every party. It was all about building your resume, not our marriage. That's not fair. No. What's not fair is wasting 8 more years pretending this is something it isn't. He turned and walked away. Ashley started to follow, but Grant caught her arm. She shook him off and went after Derek anyway. I intercepted her. Let him go, I said. Get out of my way. No. This is your fault. All of it. If you hadn't interfered, if I hadn't interfered, Derek would still be making bad decisions and calling them bold. He'd still be leveraged to the breaking point, and he'd still be married to someone who saw him as a means to an end. You don't know anything about our marriage. I know you're here with another man 3 weeks after you left. I know you just tried to humiliate Derek in front of his peers. And I know that when he stood up for himself, your first instinct was to chase him down and make him feel small again. He is small. No, you made him feel small. There's a difference. And he's done letting you. Patricia appeared at my elbow. We should go find Derek. Ashley looked between us. Her perfect makeup was starting to crack around the edges. Her perfect hair was coming loose. Her perfect facade was showing stress fractures. You've turned him against me, she said. No, you did that yourself. I just stopped pretending not to see it. I loved him. Maybe you did. In your way. But your way isn't enough. Not for him. Not anymore. She stood there another moment, trying to find something else to say, some other angle, some way to make this our fault instead of hers. Then Grant called her name from across the room, and she turned and walked back to him, her heels clicking on the marble floor like gunshots. We found Derek outside on the balcony. He was leaning on the railing, looking out at the city lights. You okay? I asked. Yeah. That was brutal. Necessary. I should have done it weeks ago. You did it now. That's what matters. He turned to look at me. I meant what I said. About you. About bringing you in being the best decision I've made. I know. No, I don't think you do. I spent 5 years trying to prove I didn't need you, trying to show everyone I was successful on my own. And all I proved was that I'm better with help than without it. Everyone is. Not everyone admits it. Patricia hugged him, quick and fierce. I'm proud of you. For what? Publicly humiliating my almost ex-wife? For standing up for yourself, for recognizing what was real and what wasn't, for being brave enough to walk away. Derek hugged her back. Then he pulled away and wiped his eyes quickly. Can we go? He asked. I've had enough charity for one night. Yeah, we can go. We left together, 3 of us in my old truck, because Derek had taken a cab, Patricia in the middle, Derek by the window, me driving through the city streets while they talked quietly about nothing important. When we dropped Derek at his house, he paused before getting out. Sunday dinner, he said. Can I come? You never needed an invitation. I know, but I want to ask anyway. Make it official. 6 o'clock. Don't be late. I won't. He wasn't. The Denver project finished ahead of schedule. Derek called me from the site, excited in a way I hadn't heard in years, talking fast about how the final inspections had gone perfectly, how the last 2 units had sold that morning, how the profit margins were better than projected. We should celebrate, he said. Dinner, somewhere nice, my treat. You're buying me dinner? I'm buying you dinner, you and Patricia, tonight if you're free. We were free. The restaurant was downtown, the kind of place with cloth napkins and wine lists and waiters who introduced themselves. Derek had reserved a private room, just the 3 of us. This is too much, Patricia said. It's not enough, Derek replied. Not for what you've done. We didn't do anything. You did the work. You made me do it right. There's a difference. The meal was excellent. We talked about everything except business, about Patricia's garden, about the trip Derek was planning to take, about nothing that mattered and everything that did. Halfway through dessert, Derek pulled out an envelope. I had Chen draw this up, he said. It's your consulting fee for the last 2 months. I opened it. Check for $50,000. This is too much, I said. It's what you'd have charged anyone else. It's what you're worth. Derek, take it, please. I need to know that I'm valuing what you give me. I looked at Patricia. She nodded. Okay, I said. I'll take it, but I'm putting half in a college fund for your kids. I don't have kids. Not yet, but you will. And when you do, they're going to college on their grandfather's dime. Derek smiled. Deal. We finished dinner. Derek paid. We walked out into the cool night air, and for the first time in years, I felt like I had my son back. Not the version of him that existed before the document. Not the version that was trying to cut me out, but a new version. One that understood the value of partnership, of honesty, of respect. Next week, Derek said, I'm meeting with a new investor group. They want to talk about a mixed-use development, residential and commercial. Sounds ambitious. It is, which is why I want you there. You sure? I'm sure. I want them to know that my father is part of my team, that his experience matters, that I don't make decisions in a vacuum. Okay, send me the details. I will. He hugged Patricia. Then he turned to me, extended his hand. I took it, pulled him into a hug instead. I'm proud of you, I said. His voice was thick. Took me long enough. Better late than never. We drove home in comfortable silence. Patricia fell asleep against my shoulder. I thought about the last 2 months, about contracts and consequences, about sons who needed to learn and fathers who needed to teach, about all the ways things could have gone wrong and the narrow path that led to this moment instead. When we got home, there was a car in the driveway I didn't recognize. Expensive. New. Someone was sitting on my porch. Ashley. I parked and woke Patricia gently. We have company. She looked, sighed. Of course we do. Ashley stood as we approached. She'd been crying. Her makeup was ruined. Her hair was a mess, and she looked nothing like the polished woman I'd seen at the charity event. I need to talk to you, she said. It's late, Ashley. Please, 5 minutes. Patricia touched my arm. I'll go inside. You don't have to. 5 minutes. I'll make tea. She went in. I stood on the porch steps, looking up at Derek's almost ex-wife. What do you want? I asked. I want you to know that you were right. About everything. I married Derek for the wrong reasons. I treated him like a project. I treated you and Patricia like liabilities. And I'm sorry. Okay. That's it? Okay. What do you want me to say? That it's fine? It's not fine. You hurt my son, you hurt us. But Derek's moving on. You should too. I can't. Why not? Because I love him. No, you love what he could give you. There's a difference. Maybe there was, at first, but somewhere along the way it became real, and I didn't realize it until it was gone. I sat down on the steps, gestured for her to sit too. She did, carefully, like the wood might break. Let me tell you something, I said. Derek's going to be fine. He's going to rebuild. He's going to find someone who actually sees him, who values him for more than his bank account or his connections. I know. And you're going to be fine too. You'll find someone else, someone who fits what you're looking for. What if Derek's what I'm looking for? Then you should have figured that out before you left, before you showed up at that charity event with another man, before you spent years making him feel like he was never quite good enough. I was trying to push him, to make him better. You were trying to make him something he's not, and he's done with that. He's done with you. She wiped her eyes. There's nothing I can do? No. Even if I change? Even then. Because change that comes from desperation isn't real change. It's just fear of consequences. That's harsh. That's honest. You want someone to tell you what you want to hear? Call Grant. He seems good at that. Grant's an idiot. Then you picked well. She almost laughed. You really don't like me. I don't like what you did to my son, but I don't hate you either. I just want you gone. Fair enough. She stood up. Tell Derek. Tell him I'm sorry. For everything. Tell him yourself. He won't take my calls. Then write a letter, email, skywriting. I don't care. But don't ask me to deliver your apologies. You made your choices. Live with them. She nodded, walked to her car, stopped before getting in. For what it's worth, she said. Derek was lucky to have you. I hope he knows that now. He does. Good. She drove away. Patricia came out with 2 cups of tea. She gone? She asked. Yeah. What did she want? Absolution. I didn't give it to her. Good. Patricia handed me a cup. I'm tired of forgiving people who aren't actually sorry. She might be sorry. She's sorry she got caught. That's different. We sat there drinking tea, watching the streetlights flicker, listening to the neighborhood settle in for the night. It's over, Patricia said. Yeah, I think it is. You got what you wanted. Did I? Didn't you? Derek respects you again. Ashley's gone. The business is stable. Everything worked out. I thought about that, about everything that had happened since Derek walked in with that portfolio. I didn't want it to work out like this, I said. I wanted Derek to realize what he was doing wrong and fix it without everything falling apart. But it did fall apart. And he did fix it. Those things happened together, not separately. I know. So what now? Now we see if the lesson sticks, if Derek actually changed, or if this is just temporary compliance until his life stabilizes again. You still don't trust it. I trust Derek. I don't trust easy victories. They don't usually last. Patricia leaned against my shoulder. You're exhausting sometimes. I know. But you're usually right. I know that too. We finished our tea and went inside. Tomorrow was Sunday. Derek would be here at 6. We'd eat dinner like a normal family. We'd talk about normal things. We'd pretend the last 2 months hadn't been a war disguised as business. And maybe, if we pretended long enough, it would become real.